So I had a really interesting conversation with a friend of mine that I work with over the weekend, in which we were talking. We originally were talking about the Confederate flag stuff in NASCAR, but then it moved over into the Minneapolis riot stuff, defund the police, Black Lives Matter situation, and we're talking about that and where our kind of positions are. And what's interesting is he and I are pretty far apart ideologically, for multiple reasons. Um, but and like we even stated a few times, like that he even said, like, I don't think there's any chance that I'm gonna change your mind or that you'll change my mind. And we were just like my mind isn't necessarily made up, but even if it was, it I am open to having my mind changed, so give me your best shot. And so, like, his position is the BLM ACAB position over here of defund cops and that whole thing. And so we were talking about some of the actual implications of it, and just that, like, he's clearly, like, the way he was, and I'm just going to kind of tell you generally where he was. I don't want to, but that he's in the idealistic kind of position of that, like, where things are is not good, and the way things are right now is unsustainable, so major change needs to be implemented, but I don't really know what that would look like. And one of his things is that he is of the opinion that, like, it's not a thing that white people or Caucasians should even have a voice into, because of the fact that he sees them primarily as perpetrators of the imbalance or the injustice. And so what I asked was, let's go ahead and just take the logic through with the defund the police issue. If that happens, and in Minneapolis, in Indianapolis, a little closer, in Terre Haute, in Chicago, in wherever, like, actual defund the police is implemented, and so let's say on the last day of the month would be the last day on duty for all active police officers in Indianapolis, and then July 1st would be the first day without any police response. Call 911, they're not coming because they don't exist anymore. What happens that first day? And honestly, like, he admitted, honestly, I haven't really thought about it, but it's something I've been thinking about since then, of what would that look like. And there's a few things that I think that are reasonable to suggest. Number one is that there would be civilian, like, vigilante bands or neighborhood watch organizations that would just, like, probably pop up pretty quickly. Criminal organizations would definitely kind of take advantage of that situation as well, and you would have open war in the streets within days, if not hours. Simply being aware that there's no one to call when a crime is being committed. In a conservative state like in Indiana, you will have people carrying guns in response to the situations that they see out there. And, like, let's say a person shoots another person, again, who do you call? Like, who would you call? So, on the other hand, let's say you're not just defunding, but you're eliminating the current roster of police, and you're going to start fresh with a brand new crop, July 1st. So let's say there's 1,000 police officers in Indianapolis. We're going to wipe the slate clean, 1,000 brand new rookie cops starting day one in July 1st. You are going to have probably 10, maybe 15 times as many people being shot on purpose or by accident in the days that follow, because of the fact that rookies of any variety make rookie mistakes. they overreach with their authority, they mishandle situations, they misread and misinterpret circumstances, and so, like, quite frankly, you're gonna have a bunch of idiot, rookie, stupid, scared cops doing what rookie, scared people do in those situations, and that will not be superior. You need people with expertise, with experience on the force in order to kind of chill them out a little bit, to show them the ropes. You need that kind of institutional memory in order for something, especially as high stress as law enforcement is, in order for it to function. So that's if you have a clean slate. Let's say, then I have the question of, when you hired those brand new 1,000 police officers, how do you really vet out, let's say, racist, bully, psychopathic, power-seeking behaviors, political mindsets? Like, how do you filter those things out so that you end up with just the good cops? Because if those systems don't exist now to filter those out, which they don't, because those kind of people are involved in law enforcement at every level, if they don't exist currently, and I don't think that they'd be able to just snap their fingers and create those mechanisms, filters, kind of those funnels to keep the undesirable personality traits out of law enforcement overnight. How do you identify what those would be? And then not only prior to hiring, but also how do you monitor and identify those kind of traits or tendencies after being hired? Because those things can develop over time as officers become calloused or frustrated, desensitized to circumstances. I think that when you look at statistics and things, that you honestly, like, you'll see a lot of rookie cops making stupid mistakes, but it's also the jaded, calloused ones that are towards the end of their careers or beyond the midpoint or peak of their career, that they tend to be reckless or careless as well, because you could say, like, it's almost like a tenure situation, like professors, teachers, coaches tend to have. Or the doctors have. So it's at those those extreme ends that you see most of these bad behaviors. It's in the middle, where they're still working towards their pension, and their kids are still small and young, and they still have a little bit of that idealism that rookies carry into the job, but they also have enough experience to do it reasonably, that they're still doing the continuing education things and going after criminal justice degrees and maybe even, like, all that, right? They still have hopes about being promoted, going after detectives positions and things. Like, those are the, for the most part, those are what you'll see is, like, those are the good ones that are former veterans and things. So it was an interesting thought experiment that we were having in this conversation as far as what would that look like, but I don't see any of those situations, whether that's the clean slate or that's the no police at all or whatever, like, those wouldn't improve the situation. In fact, that you can make a very strong argument that that would make it exceptionally worse, and we're kind of seeing that with this whole Chaz thing in the Northwest, which I might do another whole video about here soon, that quite honestly, the absence of law and order is more dangerous than you can possibly imagine. And it's more volatile, it's more unstable, and as much as you might not like things as they currently are, I don't think you truly realize how absolutely terrible that they could eventually be if these things didn't exist, like law enforcement and police officers and EMTs and things like, if those things did not exist, things would be so incredibly much worse. So it's something that, no, like, yes, things do need to change. Reform is necessary. Well, it's one of the things that he and I did agree on, is that reform is good. We do need to change training tactics and expectations of behavior and disciplinary measures. Like, we do need to reform a lot of those things, but to just burn the whole things down, handmaid style, tale style, is simply a very short-sighted, emotionally immature, selfish response. And we as a society need to, we need to do better than that. We need to think harder, think further into the future of some of the implications of this stuff. Like, we need to think these things through far more deeply than we have been, especially over the last few months. So it's just something to think about. And I want to hear some. You got thoughts? I want to hear your thoughts. And I don't know. We'll see where, like, things are very fragile, I guess you could say, in our society right now. And, like, quite honestly, see what happens.